Like here's pretty good.
See, look, I'm gonna be chatting with Nino first, and yeah, you guys just saw us run through your parking lot, and then I call you after, but it's probably gonna be like half hour.
Oh shit.
Okay. Guys, I'm gonna take a fucking piss first.
Yeah, go for it.
You want to talk about that BCSO stuff? Well,
I mean, there's not really too much more to it. There's a lot
other than they're getting fucked.
They're getting what's coming to them, and it's probably not going to be to the full extent of what I would like. But I think it's going to definitely be a big kick in their ball sack.
So realistically, right? I'm not gonna see what I would want to see, which is Ventura fired, Aspen fired, everybody
what
fired.
I want is probably 10 times worse than what you want. I think you're going to be satisfied.
What do you want?
I want to see each and every one of those individuals that spent the last 9 months
To be publicly executed?
That would be the justices. Some of the others, I'd want them on the streets. I'd want every dime that they took off of individuals in the pursuit of purchasing things for their own desires. I want that money taken and put back into people's hands. I want them broke on the goddamn street. I want them begging. I want them working at fucking senior buns to make their way through. And I want them to experience what everyone else experienced. They're driving down the road, run the wrong light, right? You get pulled over, screamed at, told to get out of the car. I want them to get hit by charges that they've been pressing on others, undeserved ones. I want them waiting for those charges on the fucking docket months and months and months at a time, wondering what's going to happen next. That's what I want. I want that anytime they drive through Forum Drive, they drive through Fudge, they drive through, well, pretty much every block in the city. For them to get checked.
I would love nothing more than that. But let's speak realistically. What do you see happening to them? Like let's say you get a new sheriff in place, like it's all the same circle jerk.
And I think this is why I think it's important that I don't push that topic too much, because if we get a little too overexcited, those that are in the midst of making those changes up north may get cold feet. I'm sure you've seen that before, right?
Well, I hope they don't. I hope they persecute these guys to the full extent of the law, just as they would do me or any one of us.
Oh, Edgar. 7-8 years ago.
I want to ask you. I'm very curious. I'm gonna say a name, and if I'm incorrect, then... Or let me put it this way. You were involved in trafficking.
Ooh, that was longer than 8 years ago.
You were trafficking certain merchandise into San Andreas, were you not?
I was trafficking a lot of things.
Tell me, were you trafficking these from, like, foreign? Were they coming by air and by seas? Or was this stuff that was being built and trafficked inside the island?
About 15 years ago, I was trafficking things into the city and trafficking them out, and in between different organizations.
But all the roads, it was going back to you, was it not?
No.
It was not.
No. long time ago there was and some of these things I wasn't expecting you to actually go this deep, but transparently there's mild aspects of this that I cannot discuss, as the powers that be, well, it kind of be the end of me, so to speak.
No, I understand. What I'm trying to get at is I'm very curious if you ever did any, like, bringing supplies in and out, again, off of the island.
I did. I was, San Andreas was my responsibility back then, 15 years back. And
15 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
And unless you're talking about meth, because that was 8 years ago.
No, I'm talking of some past.
Yeah, long time ago. I had a factory right outside of Mission Row PD. You know, the old, like, frigid, the little truck docks or whatever. There's a little building in the back. Little door, looked like a regular front. But when you drove in, there was a little secret door that you could drive your vehicle in. Entire underground old military base. I would get parts based off of contracts that were fulfilled. To give you an idea, nowadays, you know, people crack into like a Polito bank or whatever. You know, they take their money and they go buy their supercars. I don't know. People used to. There was a lot more investment in San Andreas back then. Certain valuable goods and whatnot would be housed there, and different assets around the country, around the world, sorry, would need things. Some would want like jewelry and certain things that got sold on the black market. Some would want certain statues and whatnot that would get sent over. I never knew who these people were. Nobody operated on an actual named basis. But as their needs, as they would tell me their needs, I would provide them, just as they would provide to each other. Think of it as like an underground trade network. In return, things would come my way, and I would then re-provide it out to the city.
So let me get this. So you were not exchanging strictly cash. You were doing material for material.
Oh, not even material. It was
By
assets
material,
that other
I
countries
don't
needed.
mean like rubber and plastic. I mean material as in matter, like physical, like
Correct.
objects.
Correct.
So you would high value goods, paintings, statuesques, things of this nature.
That is correct.
This is muy interesante. So
The communication line was only known to me and to other individuals. Even the way that it operated in the city, I would be issuing these contracts out to folks who would then issue those contracts out to smaller crews. So
can you explain just so I have the connection, because this is
Sure.
fascinating.
Absolutely.
Because I'm not used to this many layers. Most people, you give them the cash, they give you the stuff, and they're gone.
No. It was
Is very careless, in my opinion. Now,
it is, and it's one of the reasons those entities aren't interested in business in San Andreas today, at least.
so the connection between these valuables out of the banco, the person grabs the statue or a painting which is valued, let's say, at 10 million. They would then deposit this painting in one of your locations. What would you give in exchange for the painting?
So I'll give you a very actual, like, working example. Let's say, okay, I would see a contract come in, and those contracts were that they needed 80 boxes of valuable goods, as an example. It'd be a
The
very
valuable goods being some pass.
some yeah, sure. And so what I would do is I would dole out some contracts to my first layer of the network, and I'd say, hey, I need you guys to get me 40, and I need you guys to get me 40. In return, I might give them monetary goods, right? They'd want the money, right? I need these things. And they may then dole out the 40 to another 3 crews, right? In whichever way they wanted to do it, either directly through payphones, whatever it might be. Different groups acted differently.
So now off of this one contract already, there's like 7 different factions being fed already on this first
Precisely.
layer or 2. Exactly.
And then it would bubble to the top. I would have someone else do the pickups. I never touched the merchandise. I also kept the money separate. You don't put the money and the product in the same place.
Was the
right?
contract like given with the deposit instantly?
The money would be, yes. Well, that was a whole different operation. You have to understand, back then, our bank transactions were a lot more monitored. So there was a separate banking system that I would operate through my company called Sahara. And
Amigo,
so,
like when person like makes like $1 million purchases off their banco and don't even have a fucking 9 to 5, it's like I feel like, you know, I'm surprised it's not cracked down, you know, down on. It's like golden age right now for crime.
well, something I'm cooking right now, believe it or not, because you never know. You know what I'm saying? But what would happen is I had another banking system. People would put their money into my system. And let's say Edgar needs to do a transaction with, what's another group? With
Cyprus.
With Cyprus. You wouldn't actually do the hand-to-hand. You would come to me and Sahara and say, hey, I need to move $1 million to Luciano's account. And in our ledger, we would move that money. You could take the money out and we'd give it to you, but it was all in this back-end network, right? And this is the money that the gangs were putting aside for these bigger transactions, right? Now, the valuable goods, going back to that, it would get delivered to my people, and they would ship it out.
So you had assets in the street.
Correct.
Interesante.
You got to understand, back then, there was only very few people knew what I did, but even then, they only knew the bottom 20%. You know what I mean? They knew I set up deals for the, merchandise, whether it's like fucking AK-47s, whether it's fucking meth, whether it's like tables, manufacturing equipment, you name it. But 80% of the actual business was hidden to the rest. So when people, to give you an idea, Sahara International.
That was your company.
That was my company. As far as people were concerned.
Why Sahara? What that mean?
Sahara. Listen, it's been so long, I don't even remember.
You could just see me with like the bullet point. Is there like a symbolic significance to that?
Maybe at the time, not one that I would remember now. Maybe it's because it resembles the desert, which I find rather magnificent. But
okay, so
like the Sahara Desert, you know what I mean?
See.
But for as far as people are concerned, it was an investment company. A lot of the money that we would garner, I would put back into businesses. You have to understand, people couldn't even get bank accounts back then. So some of our profiteering would go into these companies, and it was a reason for us to move money around. My entire organization, they were clean for 4 years straight. Secretaries, CEOs, etc., moving shit around. Little did people know that we were the ones trafficking most of the stuff, right? But the key there, and it's something that a lot of people miss out on, San Andreas is a host for business. And there's a lot of countries, nations, business people outside of San Andreas that have a lot of interest here. Because we can produce and we can export. But there's no such thing as a clean business that doesn't have, the propensity to produce something else on the back end. That kind of makes sense.
See. Now, what's really fascinating to me, or what I was very interested in, although all of this is very interesting, is the moving, like, in and out Like, you ever have problem with border patrol, customs agents? Like, how is stuff coming
Yes.
in and out? Were you doing by sea or by air?
Everything. Sometimes sea, sometimes air, sometimes small boats, sometimes big cargo boats. Each and every time was a little bit different. And sometimes it was even the internet. There was a point in time where Life Invader needed to be cracked in order to get a bunch of contact information for people around the city. We doled out a contract in which the mainframe was hacked into. That data was put onto a chip. On the outside, law enforcement was notified. They were all gunned down so that USB could get its way out.
Have you seen a similar? I am very fascinated with the like these objects of high value that is traded and contracts bought with this. Let's say somebody wanted to buy, I don't know, let's say 100 bags of crystal. I'm just throwing a random number out there.
Yeah.
You said they would grab a contract from you. How would that happen? Where would they come? Would they come to like a special, knock on the door? The guy like moves the little door opener, sees who it is, like gives a password, they enter. Then like he writes his name in a notebook, okay, 100 bags of met. And then he like puts a statue on the table to make a deposit. Then you show up, look at it, go to like your stash, and give it to your guys on the street to distribute back to the buyer. Is that how it works?
So we never dealt with. I got into the meth game much later, and that operation was designed very differently. But
No, stick to the other one. I just said meth
Sure.
instead of it can like say
Yeah.
fucking tables or guns. It doesn't matter.
Sure.
But use the like statue like example.
Absolutely. I would have the other entities do the deliveries, and those entities would get those deliveries by drops, right? Might have a big container somewhere stashed up with 200-300 pieces in it, right?
But they would go to a place in person to leave
Correct.
a purchase note with a deposit.
Correct.
Ah, interesante.
Yeah.
Do you see this model happening now?
No.
Because I've bought like many things, high qualities, amigo, and a lot of it, none of it pretty much like that at all.
I'm gonna say it like this. Unfortunate. Back in the day, it meant something. When you broke into a bank, Edgar, you had reason to go into that bank. It wasn't because you were fucking bored. It wasn't because you had nothing better to do that day. It's because you needed that money in order to do something. Something that you had a goal in mind. And because getting caught up, back then you shot a cop, you were in prison for 30 years.
30
You have it
years.
easy nowadays. Yeah. You got caught up doing a Polito job, you better be planning for days ahead. Because you get caught up, you're in there for a while, and that bank account is hurt. You never wanted a stain. Because once you had that stain, the cops wouldn't forget that shit.
Oh.
And the reason I put it that way is because of that people move different. People act like they're gangsters now. They're not fucking gangsters. They're fucking suicidal idiots. You know what I'm saying? We're going to fucking run into a middle of like 50 cops and start blasting? That's fucking crazy. But the reason I'm painting that kind of picture there is because everyone moved differently, right? They talked differently. And that they were willing to be a lot more intricate with the way that they move. So when you say, could you have that model again? You can't. Because the customer here wants now. Is that kind of making sense?
It does, but I see it in a different perspective. I see it that if no one is doing, it's better for those that are interested, because it will be very advantageous to he who sets up, because it seems like there has been a successful model laid down 15 years ago. I read a long time a business. It was this business tycoon. He said there is two ways to be successful. The first is to invent something like the zipper. You mass produce and you become extremely wealthy. He said, or you find something that is very successful, like a zipper, and you just make another zipper. And you know, there's not too many in the market. You just follow something that's already working. Will be nearly just as successful. And this guy was like a billionaire who did that model. He just kind of go around and reproduce things that exist, almost to like the right quality, like same. Now,
Oh,
it
you're
seems to
talking
me
about China.
that- maybe that's what it was. This so long ago.
Yeah.
But if you notice, like it seems to me that like the groundwork has been set up like many years ago. Let me ask you this now. Someone come put in an order at the secret place, leave a deposit, then he disappear. What if your product is coming? Was it ever such that your product had to come in? Again, I want to touch on overseas. Did you
If there was a
outsource that?
delay.
Did you outsource that shipment to someone else, to another company?
Hypothetically, if I was in the business today, and hypothetically I was delivering probably 90% of the product people were touching today, hypothetically, myself and my closest people would not be touching that product. And hypothetically, it would have taken about 3 months to do, where I was touching it and no longer touch it. And those that may have given me the privilege have no idea who, how, and where their toolings they've bestowed on me currently reside.
You never had a desire to be involved in the forefront, like at the center of the hurricane?
Not if I've got bigger responsibilities.
I see.
And hypothetically, I would only be doing something like that because no one else is really stepping up. They may say they want to. Some have tried, but they only touch about 5% of the market. And hypothetically, it is the biggest pain in my fucking ass, and I hate every minute of it. And I hope to God someone else takes my place. Hypothetically.
Hypothetically, of course. Well, listen, this is very illuminating. It's what I wanted to touch on. I got a lot to muse on. Perhaps I can reach out and you can educate me some more on the past.
Anytime. I mean, I'm just gonna shoot straight. I want to see more of that. The city needs that. And anything I can do to help it, yeah.
I'm just the curious student who, like, you know, is bored on fucking parole, so, you know, might as well just, I like history. So, ladies, just a little history homework.
There are so many different ways that, there's so many different ways you could crack the nut of trade, right? Being in the forefront or being in the background. The biggest, but no matter which way you end up doing it, I think that there's one thing that's very, very important, is maintaining anonymity. Not because that there's a trust problem with the people you might be working with. It's that sometimes that it's the people that they themselves are working with and not recognizing what information is not theirs to say. Because as soon as one of those entities gets mad or whatever and says the wrong thing, they don't get hurt. It ends up being you and those that you care about. Because, man, some people fucking yap way too hard. And I'm a fucking yapper. But it's about what it is that you have to keep to yourself. So when I talk about feeling like I've been on a fucking heroin overdose the past 6 to 9 months or whatever, It's because as much as I do talk, there's certain things that I got to keep for myself because I don't want to endanger others around me. And you end up getting a little lonely in the top, in that dome space. You know what I'm saying?
100%, amigo.
Yeah.
So throughout all of that, the buyer putting down the contract, the stuff going out, never was it like it was all anonymous?
Not with my closest partners. My closest partners knew it was me. And they were all also my
how close
most
would you
dangerous
say,
assets.
like how close? Like how many? We talking 2, we talking 3, we talking 8, 10.
It's what people?
See.
Man, that's a hard one to answer. There were gang leaders that would know the entire picture, but their gang knew that I was not to be touched.
How many?
Gang leaders?
Curious. See how many people were in on like the entire like knowledge of what really going down.
I
How many
think
people
10
had
maximum.
10.
Yeah.
Okay. Very interesting.
It
only
was
10 people had the blueprint.
layered information. And what I mean by layered information is like, you know, the closest contacts would know, let's say 50% of the picture, right? Knew what I was getting them, but didn't know the back end. But then their next in line would know 20% of the information. It's hard to kind of paint the picture there. So I'll give you an example, right? One of my really good friends, he ran a big gang. He knew everything. But his captains only knew that when their gang leader talked to me, the guns would fall on their lap, and they knew never to talk about my name in that fashion, right? But the rest of the gang only knew that I helped, right? It's, yeah. So, it's,
Okay, Nino.
yeah.
I have a meeting with Cypress that I need to go chat about.
Absolutely.
But I hope I be seeing you soon.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'll come up with a few more questions, and if you're not busy, we can yap it up a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want to talk a little bit more openly, we'll find a even better location.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. I'll stay safe.
See.
I don't mind telling him I literally... coffee. I don't mind actually telling him that, yeah, I'm moving guns right now. I know you're the SMG plug because Blue Man pretty much told me. I'll tell you it like this. The way that Nino